Americans, at least when it comes to government, have the memory of a goldfish. And that makes too many of us ripe for the picking by opportunistic, straight, white, Christian, nationalist males with neo-Nazi tattoos like our defense chief, Pete Hegseth. This is how Pete Hegseth can get away with firing these Pentagon officials for being competent. They were competent. They were maybe whistleblowing, maybe leaking, drawing attention to how woefully unqualified Pete Hegseth is, not just to run the Pentagon, but to be an American soldier. Pete Hegseth is not qualified to be an American soldier. Why? Well, look at his right breast. Look at his right breast. Hegseth was in the National Guard as recently as 2021, and they wouldn't allow him to protect Joe Biden during the inauguration because he's covered in tattoos celebrating anti-government, white Christian nationalism with a hint and a whiff and a not-so-subtle tip of the hat to neo-Nazis. That is a neo-Nazi symbol. Those are not Christian symbols. The same way a burning cross is not a Christian symbol. These are neo-Nazi symbols carried by neo-Nazis. Flags, their helmets are adorned with that, and a Deus Vult tattoo. He's got a Deus Vult tattoo. One reporter who has been covering the Pentagon for decades has said privately the mess Pete Hegseth has created inside the Pentagon in, 6-7 weeks is unlike anything he's ever witnessed as a reporter. This reporter says he's stunned, appalled by the amount of infighting Pete Hegseth has unleashed inside the Pentagon. Well, Hegseth said he's going to replace DEI in the Pentagon with a warrior culture, and he succeeded. The Pentagon is waging war on itself. They are at each other's throats. 3 of Hegseth's top aides were just fired. Very close to him. He fired 3 of his closest aides. He accused them of leaking to the press. Top Pentagon officials, Dan Caldwell, Colin Carroll, and Darren Selnick, who all served closely in the Pentagon under Hegseth. One of them was his chief of staff. 2 others were his closest advisors. They were escorted out of the Pentagon after a hastily conducted, meritless investigation concluded they were leaking to the press. All 3 of these men say it's not true. They call their firings baseless attacks on their professionalism, character, and their loyalty to their country and their fellow soldiers. The 3, again, these are Hegseth's friends. The 3 men issued a joint statement claiming they were fired for leaking, but Hegseth won't tell them what they are accused of leaking, calling their firings, quote-unquote, unconscionable. In their joint statement, they said, quote, all 3 of us served our country honorably in uniform. For 2 of us, this included deployments to the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And based on our collective service, we understand the importance of information security and worked every day to protect it, unquote. They're saying we don't leak. We know how to protect information security, like not putting classified war plans on an unsecured Signal group chat for your douchebag wife and brothers to read. By the way, Caldwell and Selnick, those 2 of the 3 guys fired, they worked for Hegseth when he was running Concerned Veterans for America. That was the nonprofit. Hegseth ended up bankrupting. It's where he was accused after an internal investigation. After an internal investigation, they found that he had spent the organization's money to promote himself instead of veterans. So Caldwell and Selnick know things. They work closely with Hegseth at this nonprofit that Hegseth was pretty much fired from. He was told to leave. And then he brought them in to work closely for him at the Pentagon. And within weeks, they were escorted by armed security out the door. Now, I don't know if it's because of these two guys, but there are now rumors that more Hegseth bombshells are about to go off, and even rumors that the stuff on Hegseth is so insane, even Trump is now entertaining the idea of firing him. That's what people are saying unofficially. I don't know if it's true. I do know there was a lot that came out during Hegseth's confirmation hearings. There were sworn depositions that were suppressed by North Carolina Republican Senator Thom Tillis because Tillis, according to Vanity Fair and Rolling Stone, didn't want to deal with the death threats anymore. Jane Mayer, over at The New Yorker, wrote an expose on Pete Hegseth in December of last year, right after Trump nominated him. She wrote that as the president of the nonprofit group Concerned Veterans for America, a 7-page internal investigation accused Hegseth of excessive drinking that got so out of hand he had to be carried out of several Concerned Veterans for America events while he was semi-conscious. According to The New Yorker's Jane Mayer, Hegseth took co-workers to strip joints, had to be restrained from jumping up on the stage while he tried to join the dancers, and even worse, he's been accused of sexually harassing female employees despite being married at the time. Mayer over The New Yorker writes that the report, this was an internal report, concluded that Hegseth had created a hostile work environment where women working underneath him were sexually assaulted while he turned a blind eye to their complaints. This is who you're putting in charge of the Pentagon. Jane Mayer of The New Yorker quotes this internal report as saying female employees were afraid to step forward about other incidents of sexual assault because, quote, fear of reprisal looms over every woman associated with the organization, unquote. This was the nonprofit Concerned Veterans. His other place of employment at the time was Fox News, a bastion of moral rectitude when it comes to respect for women. It was also reported in The New Yorker that while conducting official business for Concerned Veterans of America, while sitting in a bar, Hegseth, still a member of our military at the time, drunkenly led his co-workers in a chant of "Kill all Muslims, kill all Muslims." He denies it. But then again, he also denies that this is a neo-Nazi tattoo. According to Jane Mayer of The New Yorker, Hegseth was eventually forced to resign as head of Concerned Veterans in 2016, and he began working full-time instead of part-time for Fox News, which was still at least a year away from a financial reckoning with the climate of rape Fox News president Roger Ailes had created. It was a climate of rape over at Fox News. Bill O'Reilly was fired. He ended up costing the network at least $32 million to settle lawsuits accusing him of sexual harassment and worse. Gretchen Carlson, one of the original Fox and Friends, received a $20 million payment after she sued Roger Ailes. Conservatively speaking, because we are speaking about Fox, conservatively speaking, other sexual harassment and or assault settlements for Fox News have run north of $50 million. These are the ones we know about, what has been reported in the New York Times and other news organizations. We can itemize about 50 million sexual harassment and or assault settlements. Even Don Jr.'s old fiancée, Kimberly Gargoyle, when she was working for Fox News, she was on The Five, even she had a sexual harassment settlement that had to be paid out. Even Kimberly Gargoyle, our soon-to-be ambassador to Greece, Don Jr.'s former fiancée, even she was accused of sexual harassment by female employees. We do know Pete Hegseth was accused of rape and admits to paying the woman $50,000 to keep it quiet. She was prepared to testify before the Senate during the confirmation hearings. It didn't happen. This is who we have in charge of, 3 million Pentagon employees? 2 million soldiers? I mean, it's not like he left a Louis Vuitton bag underneath his chair and it got stolen. But this is almost as bad. John Ulyat was one of the Pentagon's top spokesmen until he quit last week. After he quit, he wrote a piece for Politico. I recommend you read it. It's essentially an expose where he claims there's never been a defense chief so despised by his subordinates as Pete Hegseth. He is a despicable human being, so I can see why he would be so despised. In his piece, Ulyat over at the Politico wrote, he warned that we've only seen the tip of the iceberg and we should expect massive leaks exposing Hegseth's incompetence, his stupidity. In the piece for Politico, he says, when the day comes for Hegseth to get thrown to the curb, even his most loyal supporters will quietly applaud his departure. And now I'm saying NPR is reporting, okay? Yeah, thank you. NPR reporting late Monday night that the White House has begun planning an exit strategy for Pete Hegseth. Not even 100 days. Now, again, that's what NPR is reporting. Who knows? Here's the thing, though. Authoritarians don't worry about the media. They don't care what the people think. But they do care what those inside their government, especially the Pentagon, are thinking. And this NPR report I'm saying right now, what we're beginning to hear is Hegseth is so unpopular internally, so despised inside the Pentagon, Trump fears that his own authoritative grip is weakening. And here's what should keep Donald Trump up at night as though he sleeps. If Pentagon employees can do this to Hegseth, what can they end up doing to Trump? Again, we're not even 100 days into Trump's second term. It's not going well. It's not going well.